Don't trust Rob. Don't trust Rob. Don't trust Rob. Oh, phew, thank God. I knew I could trust Coach being a little man. Thursday morning quarterbacks, internet, my name is Peridiam, and welcome to 5 times Survivor players destroy their own game 3.0. Similar to the previous two videos, if you haven't seen them, well, you're missing out. But for those who don't know, we are covering exactly what the video title says. Y'all ready to watch people destroy their games for a third time? For every video in this series, I've included at least one winner, so let's keep that tradition going by talking about Sarah from season 28 Kageyan. I mean, she didn't win that season, but that's not the point. But at the merge, she certainly was acting like she was the winner, as we saw a side of her that wasn't very flattering and got her sent packing at a moment's notice. Basically, Sarah entered this merge with a 6-5 numbers advantage from her swap tribe. She could easily ride the game out with the 6 she was with, or she could flip to the other 5 and work with them. Tony, who's not a cop, definitely a construction worker, was a former ally of hers on the original Braun tribe, and he tried to convince her to flip. Tony tried to reason with her about his numbers, how they could reignite the Cops R Us alliance, they could be the final 2 of the season. Sarah weighed her options and wasn't entirely sure which direction to go, and given this is a video about players destroying their own games, I'm sure you can guess which direction I'm going in. Sarah went back to her 6-person swapped alliance and said she wanted to write it out with them, but on one condition. She gets to decide who they vote for at the next tribal council. She wanted to decide the target, and this insistence rubbed Cass, one of her allies in the 6, the wrong way. Cass was not fond of how Sarah was treating her alliance, like she was the president and the rest of them were just White House secretaries. And so Trish, in the opposing alliance, noticed this rift between Sarah and Cass and took advantage of it. Instead of relying on Tony to flip Sarah, Trish approached Cass with a better deal. You flip to our side and we will vote out whoever you want. This was music to Cass's ears, and guess who she chose as her primary target? Sarah went from being the swing vote with all the power to getting too comfortable, too demanding, and ultimately out the door by the next vote.
I will make the decision on who goes home next. I get to decide. I'm the president right now.
Tony is very smart and observes what is going on around him. I think my votes are either LJ or Tony.
I think she's down there calling the shot. Yep, she's down there in the middle of it calling all the shots.
Because she's the most powerful player right now. They need her vote.
The original agreement was, play it cool, we'll probably take out Jeffra or Trish to get the numbers. And then let's meddle with the big boys who might have idols or strategies. She thinks she's running the show.
When Sarah's telling me, let me think about it, let me make my decision in tribal council, are you kidding me? I couldn't believe she said that. And I look at her, and you know what? They were right.
Well, if you had your choice to get anybody on that team, who would you go for?
I take out Sir.
And she goes, I think it's too late to put together. I said, no, it's not.
So what do you want to do? You want to...
Sarah.
Right.
Sarah's our vote. Sarah's our vote tonight.
7th person voted out, the first member of our jury.
Let's go real old school with this next demise, as we are talking about Johnny Pots and Pans, or just John, from season 4, Marquesas, who infamously was on the receiving end of the first major post-merge change of power in the history of Survivor. John's actions and those of his alliance led to their demise from being at the top of the pecking order to being the next guy voted out and the first person on the jury. John was leading a 4-person alliance in a tribe of 9, and back in the olden days of the show, power didn't really shift once you managed a foothold at the merge. John's alliance, the Road to 4, voted out Boston Rob in the previous episode, one of the smarter moves in this video, and felt like he was on cloud 9 going into the final 9. He had his 4-person alliance and 2 fringe players in Nalia and Pascal forming a 6-person group with 3 outsiders going next. If everything went according to plan, John was likely going to win this season. And then the reward challenge showed up, involving players answering trivia and chopping coconuts, and man, everything goes south from here. Whenever you got a question right, you got to chop another player's coconuts, eventually eliminating them from the challenge. And John's alliance consistently targeted every player in the order they desired to see them eliminated from the game. It was so blatant what was happening, and the outsiders could only look on as they were clearly getting front row seats for the inevitable Final 4. But this was at the Final 9, and math is important, and so the 5 players not in the Row to 4 realized why 6 was in fact afraid of 7, because 7, 8, 9, and 5 is bigger than 4. The 5 outsiders came together and voted for John, the leader of the row 2s, and damn. All it took was the wrong chopping of a coconut to see your game go down with a thud.
All right, Sean, you're the first casualty. You can take your box. Have a seat right over here in the viewing area.
Oh, 3 strikes and you're...
Where's Johnny Cochran? I want him on the phone right now.
Visepia, join Sean in the waiting area.
Ow!
Kathy's out of the game.
This is the order how it's gonna go. That's my boy.
You guys are cooking tonight.
Take your box.
Hey.
And join the group.
It's green.
Sean went out first, then V, then Kathy. I had some satisfaction that I was the one that cut Sean's last rope, so hopefully that will be an omen tonight.
I think it signaled us that there was a pecking order and we were included in it, even though we'd been told that that wasn't true.
I've just had this feeling, you know, especially after today's immunity challenge. I saw him hack down Pascal's coconut so fast, and inside I'm just like, there's got to be something change here.
The 8th person voted out, first member of our jury, John.
The third player who destroyed their own game stays with the older seasons, as I am talking about Leanne from Season 9 of Vanuatu, where at the final 7, Leanne's loose lips sink her ship, and the strange thing about it all is that she was destroying her game so matter-of-factly. Leanne was in a 4-person all-women's alliance with Amy, Scout, and Twyla, and they later added Julie and Eliza into the mix to form a 6-person operation where they decimated the men at the merge. They had picked off 3 men in a row, and there was only one left, Chris, and he was targeted to be voted out. But Leanne and Amy liked Chris more than they liked a few of the women, particularly Eliza, and so they decided to spare Chris for a round to vote her out first. And while this wasn't the best idea in the world, to make matters worse, before Leanne decided to spare Chris, she talked to Scout, a member of her alliance, her Final 4 alliance, and told her to her face that Julie was being bumped up higher in the pecking order and Scout was now at the bottom in 5th, behind Eliza and Chris. Wait, hold on, did Probst have anything to do with this? Scout was obviously bummed to hear this, but Scout was also really close to Twyla, and once she heard the women were targeting Eliza, and Chris was already on the outs, and there were only 7 people left in the game, connecting the dots like a 40-year-old's crafts project, it kind of became apparent what needed to happen. Scout talked to Twyla, Twyla talked to Chris, Chris talked to Eliza, and suddenly you got a good old-fashioned blindside on your hands. Leanne began the episode telling Scout where she stood, and ended the episode standing directly in front of Jeff Probst.
It's hard to choose what to believe because it would do Chris a lot of good to get us mad at Twyla and Scout. I mean, it would make him last longer in the game.
Man, I just didn't think it would happen this soon. I thought we'd at least wait until the guys were gone before the girls started going crazy on each other, but oh, it's happening.
I thought that
We'd
the three of us plus Twyla that we would go to the
We didn't ever say anything about the Final 4.
Leanne and Amy have backed out of their alliance with me, that we would go all the way to the end of the game together. Have you promised Jules?
I have since promised Jules.
Okay, so you want Jules to go to the Final 4?
I do.
You know, vengeance is mine, saith the jury.
For the last 3 days, you've held the key, and you haven't realized it. By talking to one person.
Scout. I'm talking to you.
No.
Eliza.
Amy and Leanne just act like they're so much better than everybody else, and they got this all wrapped up in their back pocket, and it just freaking pisses me off.
12th person voted out of Survivor Vanuatu.
Let's just keep inching our way forward through history as we move 2 seasons ahead to Season 11, Guatemala, where we saw a newly minted swap tribe result in a player in the majority rubbing their tribe the wrong way and then getting voted out not long after. I am talking about Golden Boy Blake, the young stud who had a lot of really fascinating stories about his frat bro party life and his hot girlfriend and just everything else under the sun. Blake joined a swap tribe where his original tribe, Nakum, held the numbers 4 to 3, which usually means you should be good to go for at least a few tribal councils. Especially given idols didn't exist at this time, it's pretty straightforward. The problem, as per usual, however, was that the 3 players in the minority, Brian, Amy, and Gary the landscaper, were more likable, relatable, and strategically coherent. Blake was physically fit, but the closer you get to the individual portion of the game, the less that matters. Blake Blake was a pretty annoying guy at times to deal with, so much so that Brian began to utilize a strategy he called Bait Blake, where he coaxed Blake into telling his generic, boring stories for the entire tribe, just to get the tribe to want Blake out even more. Blake couldn't help himself, and so Danny, Bobby John, and Brandon, his former tribe mates, decided to strike a deal with Gary and Amy to form a new working group that cut Blake out from the majority. As we saw, Blake was sent packing at the next tribal council, and I gotta imagine if he had just been like a little more aware, things could have easily remained as the status quo, as they usually do when swaps occur.
Sitting here thinking about, how am I sitting in this game right now? What chances do I have at this point? I think I've got a pretty good chance. There's 7 of us and 4 of us are the original Macomb, so I like my odds right now.
Golden boy.
Golden boy.
Golden boy.
It's like, I came up with the name Golden Boy for Blake because he always comes up smelling like roses.
Was dating a lot, and I have a girlfriend, pretty amazing girl, and I see a lot of older women, and that kind of got me in trouble for a while, and so I kind of slowed that down. And
Blake talks about himself all the time.
Girlfriend, she's got double D.
Blake is such an idiot. He's making himself look like such a pretty boy, frat boy, wealthy boy. It's great.
Blake, what is your absolute best drunk story?
Oh, God.
What you're saying, Blake, is that I wouldn't want one of my $3 a day.
No. Digging himself into a hole, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that he has a shovel.
Lights come on, pull over. Gives us both a warning for not having proper signaling devices or whistles. And I'm like, dude, we rented these for 2 hours. We don't live here. We live in downtown Dallas.
Gary came up to me to talk about Blake, and Gary just said he couldn't vote for somebody who just didn't deserve to go any further. And so I said I felt the same way. Everybody's getting a little fed up with him. And I like the guy. He's a good guy. He's just young, and it's just typical frat boy stuff. And I don't like that frat boy stuff at all.
5th person voted out of Survivor Guatemala, Blake.
And then finally, we get to a doozy of a destruction for this group, as we see a man get voted out not once, but twice in one season. And both times are framed as it being his fault. Although I think the second ouster is definitely the one to focus on. I'm talking about Matt from season 22, Redemption Island, the guy who was initially blindsided by Boston Rob in the second episode for, wait, let me check my notes. For shaking hands with the other tribe after a challenge loss. Really? Really, Rob? That's all it takes for you? Have you seen Australian Survivor? Okay, so Matt was voted out in episode 2 for shaking hands with the other tribe after a challenge loss, and I guess that's kind of on him. I've heard tribes shake hands with each other all the time, so maybe this just wasn't as normal back during the season, I don't know. Either way, Matt goes to Redemption Island and battles his way through half a dozen duels to earn his way back into the game at the merge. If you haven't seen this season, there's basically a special twist that allows players who are voted out to get a second chance at redemption. And so Matt wins his way back in, and of course he is a little bitter and frustrated at Rob for what he did to him way back in episode 2. Matt meets up with Andrea, and they discuss the possibility of flipping on Boston Rob and their original tribe and going with the opposing tribe. Yeah, that makes sense. That sounds like a plan. Matt even connects with the leader of the opposing tribe, and they both get along great. They're both Christian men and have stuff in common. Boston Bob is seething. Okay, he's a little nervous, but then Matt sleeps on what he wants to do, the direction he wants to take the game, and he wakes up feeling refreshed and seemingly losing a lot of IQ points. He decides that he doesn't want to turn on his old tribe, despite them blindsiding him because of reasons. He says he likes them too much and he can forgive them. He is going to break that cycle of vengeance. So he tells Boston Rob everything. He tells them that he was planning to flip but had a change of heart, and here he is, ready to join back with Rob's alliance and march forward towards victory. What did I say at the top of the video? Don't trust Rob. Boston Rob is not happy to hear about Matt's wavering loyalty. Not only that, but Matt inadvertently threw Andrea under the bus too when he told Rob about how they were both considering a flip. Andrea was also not happy to hear this. So Boston Rob decides to serve up a second course of blindside butterbeans, and guess what happens next? After winning his way back into the game in the very same episode, Matt is blindsided again and voted out again, all through his own doing. He gave Rob a loaded gun, explained how he almost used it, and naively expected the guy to let bygones be bygones. Matt, they don't call him the Rob father for nothing.
I want to be in this game as long as I can. So I'm really just trying to figure out what's best for me and which route to take. Because last time I was coasting and waiting to play the game, and this time I can't be as near as passive because I'll be back on Redemption Island in a jiffy. This is what I want. I want to take out the Ometepe tribe because I'm honestly at the bottom of the alliance. This game respects big moves.
Yeah.
It does, and this is a huge move.
Right now, I'm tight with Robin Pratt, and I have to make it seem like I'm
No, so that's what I'm saying. We can only talk to each other about it. Part of me wants to do the big survivor move. However, right now, I feel like my heart's almost telling me not to and just to stick with the Ometepe. This absolutely is a game, but my heart's telling me don't change. I want to honor my God and be true to who I am.
Matt just told me he was thinking about flipping and going with Zepatera. I mean, first of all, he has the audacity to think that he's gonna come up with a plan to vote me out. And then the stupidity to tell me that.
Yesterday, Matt and I were like, okay, we're not telling anybody what we're planning. And now he's like throwing me under the bus to Rob. It's so stupid because like that could have sabotaged my plan to get to like the final 3 completely.
Dude, he's such a good Christian guy.
Well, he can still be a good Christian guy from Redemption Island.
Yeah.
8th person voted out of Survivor Redemption Island. Matt. Matt, once again, the tribe has spoken.
And those are 5 times Survivor players destroyed their own game 3.0. Let the train wrecks hit the floor. Let the train wrecks just keep piling up. Let me know what you guys think about these 5 instances or of any other destructive moves that you want me to talk about. A huge thank you to my patrons for not chopping my coconut and inspiring a coup. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to keep your enemies close, but your allies closer on your way out. And I will see you in the next one. Once I say, we stick to the plan.
John and Jacqueline think we're all voting out Keith, and Keith is going home. But my plan is to basically get out John.
We vote 2-2-2.
Yeah.
You and Keith vote John. My mom and me vote Jacqueline. And them two, John and Jacqueline, vote Keith. If he plays the idol, revote, vote Jacqueline out.
The plan is to split votes. If John plays his idol, we'll vote out Jacqueline. If he doesn't play his idol, we re-vote and vote John, and John goes home. But that's the plan. We're pretending like we're all voting for you. So at Tribal, don't act crazy, but just act like, depressed that you're going home.
It's an amazing plan, but it has to be stuck to.
2 votes Keith, 2 votes Jacqueline, 1 vote John, 1 vote left. John, we have a 3-way tie.